Hello, everybody. It's on October 1st, first Wednesday of the month, and this is Coffee with the Councilors. And I'm Lisa Kurt, and this is Gary.
Hello.
And Harry Kate. And so I'm just gonna go around the room first and ask you what you'd like to talk about, and then the people online real quickly, and then we'll go back through and people can talk. So Lois, you're here first, so what would you talk about?
That doesn't give me preference.
Well, and we're-
I had some questions for Daniel regarding the trial last week, since he was one of the witnesses. I was kind of in the back and I couldn't really hear things very well. So I thought maybe he could fill in some blanks for me.
Yeah, I'd like to know about that too.
Yeah, and then just maybe an update on what's going on with the school property, and that's,
Okay,
I'm sure everybody would like to know that.
yeah, good.
Maybe including you.
Mr. Tulip, you were here second.
I'm just in the receipt mode today. I've been here, but I really haven't been, I've been in town, but I really haven't been in town. So
Okay.
that's most stores.
Catch up, okay. Mike?
My name is Don Quixote. I'm here to talk about the gym, the old gym. And, my name is Mike Morgan, of course. I'd like to present some information to you guys, about the old gym.
Okay, great. And these are, by the way, these are recorded, so people oftentimes
Of course.
come in later and watch them, so
Nothing secret about this meeting.
no, nothing secret. But this and the other way. Okay, Betty,
Hi, guys. I just tuned in and I don't really, I can't think about a question right now, but I just wanted to see what's happening. But if Mike's going to talk about the gym, I'm going to talk about a classroom at the site, the Nico's site.
and Dale?
Well, good morning. I just had about half an hour or so of computer work to do, so I thought I would watch what's going on and just hear the news. Everything's fine with me, and I'm happy. So I think the city's great. That's it for me.
Wow, somebody who's happy, it's wonderful. Okay, all right. Is there anybody else on, okay, so let's go back to Lois, and Daniel is not here.
Correct.
So can you tell us, Bruce, what happened with the
I'm
trial?
really be hesitant to try to explain anything related to that.
Well, was there a verdict?
What was the trial?
The trial was, would you want to explain it to us?
There's a property on Fifth Street that built a wall on top of a couple of feet of infill. And so there was a question as to whether the wall met code or not. And this came up in the summer of 2024, so it's been a little over a year with postponements, I don't know, 4 or 5 times anyway. And then the trial was last week.
Was there a verdict?
My understanding was the judge, from what I understood when I could not hear everything, but he said he would have a verdict in 30 days, I believe.
Okay. And so there was testimony from Daniel as a witness.
Right.
Who else was a witness that you recall?
Who else was?
A witness.
No one else for the city. There was a gentleman, Tim Ramey, that testified for the defense.
Okay, but he wasn't involved in any way with the wall.
Not to my understanding.
Okay, so it just is.
My question was, I wasn't quite sure I understood. But it sounded like when they began to talk about the surveys that were done on the property, one of them done prior to them even clearing the land, that showed the elevation was basically street level where they built the wall. And then another one done by the city in 2020, before that showed that the elevation was then a couple feet higher. Because they put in the large rocks and backfilled with gravel, and then they built the wall on top of that. And I think I understood that because there wasn't anyone there from the survey company to authenticate the surveys, even though I'm sure they were signed and dated, that they were not allowed as evidence. So that was one of my questions. Did I understand that correctly, or did I not hear it correctly?
But if there was no survey allowed as evidence, how could there be a decision? Because there would be no way to determine one way or the other, whether it was over the height. limit.
Well, there was quite a discussion about the difference between a retaining wall and a fence.
Oh, okay.
And the large rocks in front, based on what they described as a retaining wall, the large rocks would probably be considered a retaining wall because they retain all of the backfill gravel that was put in behind them. And the masonry structure that is slightly over 3.5 feet high, not significantly over, but slightly over, was considered a fence. But I'm not sure that that clarification was made. That was another question.
Are these recorded, the trials?
Yeah.
You can't go back and listen to it. So who is the prosecutor?
Ashley.
Ashley,
Lukenshire.
Ashley who?
Lukenshire.
Who's that?
She's the deputy DA.
Okay. Huh. All right.
What is her typical focus or her specialty?
They take all sorts of cases. The deputy DAs are just, general DAs that are directed to do whatever case comes up, criminal, civil, whatever.
And she's represented the city before?
No, she's a DA. She's a deputy district attorney. You understand what that is?
Apparently not.
Well, every county has a district attorney, right? And the district attorney has several usually young lawyers, employees. And they're assigned cases as they come into the court.
Okay. I thought her specialty was more in the financial planning, real estate arena, but maybe not.
I have a hand up too already.
A hand up?
Yeah, Betty's hand up.
Betty?
Yes, I just want you to know, Deanna Turner called. She can't get on Zoom. Betsy can't get on regular Zoom. I think she's on her phone. So Deanna wanted to ask questions. So she's not sure why Zoom cut off it. She can't get on. So I just wanted you to
Betty,
know.
Betty, if you look at the screen, you'll see that I'm on now. This is Betsy. Hi,
I
everybody.
do see you're on, but are you on?
No,
with
it
your-
took forever. No, it was really awkward and difficult, and it took a really long time to get onto Zoom this morning. I don't know if it's Verizon or my computer or me or what, but tell Diana to keep working on it because sooner or later she can do it.
Okay, great. Because she does have a question to ask.
Great, thank you.
Does this wall, why is, I guess somehow it's against code, is this causing a major problem for the neighbors or neighborhood? Or is it just because it's against code, we want to bring it down, or I'm not sure.
I think that whenever something is, if the neighborhood perceives it to be over what is permitted by the code, people, because then if one person can do it, then the next person can do it, where's the cutoff point? And if you're 2 inches over or a foot over, it just becomes a big ball of wax. So, it's important that the codes apply.
Just don't want to set a precedent of
Right.
overlooking it.
Exactly.
It's causing some hazard for somebody or what?
No, it's not causing a hazard. It's just a matter of
Enforcement law.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so I'm going to try and find out some more information about it. I will, because I'm very interested in it too. I also,
I'm trying to avoid that situation of, asking for forgiveness, going in and doing something and asking for forgiveness rather than, you know, asking for permission. Or,
right, just doing what you want and then saying afterwards, oh, well, I screwed up.
That's another question that I had, and maybe Bruce could direct it. Can people ask for a variance to the code if they want to do something higher, or?
Yes, yes, if they could, yes, they just have to meet the criteria that's set forth in the code for a variance, and if they meet those criteria, or any of them really, they can apply for a variance, but.
So if they have a logical rationale or reason for
Yes.
applying for a variance.
Right, if it
They
has
can
some
do that.
health or safety, or they can't do it any other way, or if, there's no other choice, or there would be a hardship is a big one. If
Yeah,
they weren't permitted to do it, those are things that, as long as it doesn't interfere with other people's property rights or their light or their whatever, then, it meets all those criteria for not interfering. And for, usually the hardship is the one people usually go with, they can't do it any other way. Then the planning commission can grant a variance.
that would come from the planning commission.
Yes, it would, and then it could be possibly appealed up to the council, but usually, most often they're not
Sure.
for variance.
Okay.
Once in a while they are, but usually they're, they spend a lot of time and write a very clear reasoning for why they did what they do or did, and so that, suffices. You can always appeal. So. I will try and find more information for you.
That's it, that's from your right.
Oh, Betsy?
Is change the subject for a little bit? Or do you guys want to keep talking about the wall?
No, I think we're done with the wall. I think Mike is next, unless.
Oh, I'm sorry. It took me late getting to the meeting. I'll just get in line. But I
is
do
there
have
something you
just
want to add to the agenda?
Yeah, you want to add something?
yes. I'd like to talk about parking on Hemlock, and I'd like to talk about parking in 10-minute zones.
Okay.
Please.
Oh.
Get in line, Betsy.
Everybody loved, okay, Mike, okay, I will. And I didn't know you got up this early in the morning. Okay.
Okay, Mike, I think you're next.
Okay. As I said, I'm here.
You don't have to stand up.
Well, I'm gonna pass out some
Oh.
material. I'm here as one of my favorite fictional characters, Don Quixote. And I'm going to, stop some stuff. My. Oops. There aren't that many copies. Well, here's one.
Need the glasses.
So I'm interested in seeing the old gym renovated, and I know there's a movement afoot. Talked to my friend Eric and the councilors about the plan to demolish it and put another structure in its place. But I think that would be a mistake for a number of reasons. One, which I iterated on the petition, is the idea of saving carbon. The demolition of the old gym, which has a forest of trees in the structure. Would be, at a cost of $500,000 to demolish would be a tragedy, I think. I think the plan that I'm passing out in a very preliminary, thought I have for estimate, very preliminary estimates, are based on the idea of just a very, basic structure, essentially a barn, like the, this building's been compared to the, Tillamook, airplane, air hangars down there. And I really agree. You can see from the photograph that it's really, kind of a breathtaking structure. An architect that did that plan, who I think you might know, has been to all of the meetings, is Todd Lawson. And, under that plan, he's demolishing he shows a demolition of the classrooms and leaving and concentrating on the gym, which I think, is debatable. I think, if there's funding to renovate the classrooms along with the gym, but I think the gym has such incredible historical significance in our town, that it would really be a shame to see it go. So, from a cost standpoint, I think if it's simplified significantly, I think it could be, well within the budget that's still available. Tim Ramey and other financial wizards in town have pointed out that there's basically a fire hose of money coming out of the 2.5% and the TLT funding, and that money isn't really an issue anymore. But I think if some people think that spending $12 million to $13 million on the building would be foolish, I think there's a way to get it down to a much lower number.
Can I just ask you where you got these numbers from?
That's from Todd Lawson, the architect, and they're very preliminary. So, and as you can see, it doesn't include a lot of the items like bathrooms and a kitchen, at least a catering kitchen. So, those numbers need to be refined. But if you his point is, if you stick to the very basics, like eliminating things like acoustical improvements. When the building was functional, back in the day, there were numerous musical events there, and I can attest that the acoustics are just fine inside that building. They had the Oregon Choral, it's called the Choral Directors Association, would come as part of ASAC program, and they would have a whole week of choral events, singers. But the musical ability, I mean, the capacity of the hall to have musical events is really wonderful, I think. In terms of three, I think I mentioned ORS 320 there about the need to serve the tourist community, or the tourists, as well as the community itself. I think in talking to Patrick and some other hoteliers, they think it would meet the requirements of the law. So, I guess this is just the first shot. I'm hoping to collect a couple of hundred signatures before the meeting on the 17th, I think it is. And, those numbers will be refined by Todd, hopefully talking to other contractors, but I just, my basic line is, I just think it's a wonderful building and it really needs to be preserved. I think there are questions about staffing. How would you would you have to create an entire agency in the city to schedule it and all of that? And I think not. I think it could be much simpler than that. I think that, you only have one real parks committee, or parks employee, but maybe adding an employee to handle the maintenance and the booking of the thing would be in the cards, and there's cash to do that, according to maybe and others. So that's all I have. I would really hope that you would consider this. I know in Bruce's memo, renovating the gym was one of your 5 options. And I was glad to see that, and that it's still on the table. So that's all I have.
Yes, so the one thing I would add, I've heard this gym being discussed many times. I've never been inside. This is the first picture I've seen of the inside. So if somebody wants me to support the gym or support that, it needs to be an open house where we're going to actually look at what's in it. I'm not gonna approve something off of a picture or discussion going back and forth and back and forth. So maybe at some point I would recommend that maybe after the discussion that there is an open house or some sort of forum where people can go and see. Hey, just what is in this gym. I heard people mention mezzanine. Okay, I know what a mezzanine is, but I don't know what mezzanine is in that gym. So that was just kind of my point of view. Supporting something I've never been inside of. I just drive past it all the time. I don't find it particularly attractive myself from the outside. The potential is, but that gym, I don't know if I see the inside. But maybe some sort of open house is publicized so people can come and see just exactly what is this.
I'm just curious, Bruce, what is the possibility of something like that? Or is it even safe to allow the public in it right now?
Yeah, it's safe, it is safe enough, we use it for storage. That's something that we did do when we, started the process, in fact, we didn't quite an event there.
That was like over 5 years ago, wasn't it? Or about 5 years ago?
Honestly,
Yeah.
Or I don't even have that.
yeah, but, that's something that, we'll bring up with the council when we meet, and I think it's October 28th.
Is it 17th?
There's one said the 28th, I saw online,
Yeah.
Protect Cannon Beach.
But I think it got changed,
The 28th.
Well,
quite a little time.
You got a budget here of 2.4 million. We already looked at a budget by,
Stephen.
yes. And at that point, it was, estimated at, do you recall?
I guess.
It seemed to be upwards of, $7 million. And that was,
6 or something.
there was a range, there was a low range and a high range, and crazy to,
On whether you
yes,
can
get
have
the low
certain
range.
things included, and whether or not you didn't, or,
Well,
it wasn't.
even that estimate was really just making it possible to open up the doors. It wasn't any equipment or gym floor or anything to make it attractive. No, it's just replacing the windows and doors where they sit. But adding the things that you'd have to add for a public facility. Am I correct in that?
I thought that the price that was provided, last discussion included things like the gym floor, acoustic materials in the ceiling, sound, gym equipment, like the nets and things like that for pickleball. And I think a PA system,
And what?
a PA system. Yes.
Could we bring that to the meeting? I would like to see those figures again, so I'd like to see what the estimates of Cedar were to bring it just up to code. They had 3 different levels. One of the levels included all those things you mentioned, but not all 3 of the estimates did. So I'd like to see what those 3 different scenarios look like.
It was in a packet that we looked at, and the different scenarios were how much it would cost to demolish the whole thing and build something new. How much to demolish the classroom wing, but leave the gym, and then how much to demolish the gym and leave the classroom.
But it was also there was different levels of construction on the gym itself.
I don't think so. I think it was just a
Well,
low range in case it's this much per square foot and a high range. Cause I think
We can do that and, we want that price of both.
I guess I'm just curious
we'd like to
what-
see it.
what it included.
Yeah, well.
Because my understanding was it was really, kind of that lipstick on a pig, scenario of, not making it attractive, but just doing everything you need to do for a public facility.
I don't remember it including all of those extras, so that's why I want to see it. And I don't remember the PA system and all that.
Me neither.
included, so-
In fact, I thought I asked that question at the meeting and, like if he left a mezzanine the Craig doesn't know about, which makes it unable to do anything to the north. But it would be nice to be clear about what that included.
But in,
So,
I'm not sure
Go ahead.
so let me point out that the numbers there are basically just to stabilize the building. The roof, it's a put a comp roof on it, not a metal roof. Bolt down the structure, for sizing purposes. Although his point of view, Todd's point of view is that arch structure is throughout history is one of the most stable types of building in construction, in architecture. And not only is it structurally strong, but it's also beautiful because there are no interior supports. It's just a huge arch over your head. And I think the photograph does show that. But the other things that would be added in, having restrooms on the north side of the building that could serve, both the park as well as the interior, uses, I think would be, a significant, number. I mean, there are restrooms there, but they need to be renovated.
I think it needs all new
it's.
plumbing,
Yeah, but they're there. I mean,
no, it's not just like put in new fixtures.
no, that's true.
New pipes.
We
Yes,
need to dig, out to the
new
sewer.
connection to the sewer system,
Right.
so I kind of question this, giving people the idea that this could be done for 2.4 million. It's
No,
just-
let's don't talk.
We've had so much misinformation about this that, I just,
Well, if it's
telling people we can do it for 2.4 million, I think it's just.
CETA, if CETA said it's five, I saw 5.5 to 6 on one of the estimates. And if that's possible, and I have no reason to think that it's not, then that's a good deal. I mean, that gives you a completely functional structure without bells and whistles for $6 million.
Because I'm just curious, you were active in, turning people against the project.
Initially I
Yeah.
was, and I
And so
was,
we had the entire thing saved, useful and, and attractive, and paid for. And now we're just getting less for more money at this point. So I guess
well, I have to say, I'm here to eat some crow. I sent that letter with Sam. Sam and I wrote the letter at the outset saying, how did it get from 4 million to 12 million in a heartbeat? And then I'm not a member, I didn't join the Canopies Together, I wasn't pushing that. I didn't, I wasn't involved in it after that, and I apologize for not following through. But I think that, in retrospect, tearing it down would be a tragedy. I think if it takes 12 million now, you've got 12 million. It's available according to two of your budget committee members. No, that's not true.
I would say that we have in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 million.
You have 3.6 million left in the bond proceeds. And you've got, and then other funding coming in on an annual basis. That's the fire hose is that Randy Neal and Ramey, is with.
There's about $7 million available for the project right now. Yes, we could borrow, but we put this up to a vote and the community voted no. So
I have to say that they didn't vote, that the community didn't vote to ditch the whole thing. I think to say, for the council to say, okay, nobody can decide, they voted against it, let's just tear it down, would be irresponsible. Why not look at the middle ground? Okay, 6 million, yeah, sure, you can have a usable facility for 6 million. And people could enjoy it, pickleball, concerts, conferences, all of those things are doable within that building for $6 million. So, and
so now you want to build the tourist facility that this organization thought that we didn't want a tourist facility.
It's not a tourist facility.
But you want to use the tourist money.
Well, sure, under 320, you can do it. According to people I talk to.
Well, I've been in the tourism industry a long time and I understand the law well, and it needs to be the substantial purpose of supporting tourist activities.
Yeah, so take a poll of all the pickleballers over there and over there during the summertime, or whenever it's nice, 80% of them are out of town.
So when I hear putting all the money just to save the building and make it an eyesore, do nothing for the park, do nothing to do anything for the tribe or that historic site. To me, it's a non-starter. I listened to the people and what they said, and the design review board turned down the plan, mainly because of the gymnasium. So,
And I understand, I think this definitely needs further discussion, and I think we need to have the figures for Bruce to provide for the, in the packet. So everybody can see it, of the different estimates that were done. And this discussion, I don't wanna take, because there's a whole bunch of people now who wanna talk, so I don't wanna take.
most people wanted to talk about this topic, but we should
Just
let
go on,
them
and then
know.
if there's room at the end, we'll come back. Let everybody weigh in, what do they think?
And I also want to point out that Todd Lawson is a tribal member. He's a class of Hill tribal member, and he's all on board for the idea of saving as a legacy to the tribe and the community, and he's a registered architect. I mean,
He's not on the tribal council. I've been talking to the tribal council. But yes, he's an architect and he likes the building.
And then maybe one more plug for the open house, since we're starting this all over again, and a lot of new people have come in and haven't seen any of those facilities and I think it's stuff.
It's true.
good idea.
I had the exact same thought, you know, I've been here for 6 years, it's been closed long before that. And if an open house were to be, I hate to say the word advertised, but if the word was out, a lot of people, as you well know, own property here but don't live here. But they're still interested in what happens with that property. I think you'd get some owners to come if they could plan ahead of time to come back to town and go take a look at it.
Well, even a lot of people who live here full time haven't seen it.
That's probably true also.
So, yeah, well, is there anybody who wants to weigh in on this online? On this topic? I think Betty had something to say.
I did have something to say, but I was so involved in trying to get the building, and I was so involved in the last process that I find myself, I don't think I can even talk about it, because it's almost like we would have to throw out everything we did and we would end up with something that was half of what we would have had and it would have been paid for. So I don't know. It's like we threw the baby out with the bathwater and now people want the baby back. And so Lauren, we did have open houses. We had meetings after meetings after meetings, and we had community support. So it's just a super sad situation. But I hope if we do have revive the space, I hope we have a place to educate people about the environment, because it's the gateway to our environment. It's where the estuary begins, and it's where the tribe lived, and it's where the water goes right down to Haystack Rock. It's a way for us to educate people about the beauty of our city and the significance of our city. So just to have it built for a pickleball and a concert once in a while, that's just really sad to me.
Yeah. And I just like to add, you keep talking about this fire hose of money, but there are other projects that are needed and wanted in the city, like trails, parks, things like that.
Housing, affordable housing, I think that's, I
Affordable
absolutely,
housing is not paid for with TLT tax.
no, but.
I'm talking about
the
things that can be.
The 2.5% can pay for housing.
Right, but I'm talking about things like, you know, trails and parks.
Sure.
Things that, you know,
Tourist use.
that tourists use as
Yeah.
well. So it's not just a fire hose pointing at the old school, you know? I mean, so just, no, and
Well, Rainey, you know, when Rainey says that, and he's talking about in the entirety of the city budget. There's, you know, once you pay for you're paying for the city hall, you're paying for the police station out of bond funds, but there's still a lot of finance. There's a lot of financial capability in the budget through, you know, good planning from Bruce to, you know, arrange it so that the money will be there.
the thing is that everyone's priority isn't necessarily the school for that money. And I'm not making a judgment one way or the other about any of this right now. We're waiting to hear everything, but I just am saying that I do recognize that that is not everyone's priority. That trails are a huge priority for a lot of people, and other things like parks and trails. So
I agree, and to say, I'd like to respond to Betty's comment. I think you can still have a big environmental component the renovation of the building. I mean, the demolition alone, the loss of the carbon in that building for $500,000 is an environmental black mark on the city. So, talk about the environment, let's restore a building. In Astoria, where I worked for 30 years, that would be on the National Register of Historic Places by now. I mean, people look at it and think, oh, it's ugly. It's not ugly. And it has enormous community significance. It was built by the community with, mostly volunteers back in the 40s. And it has to have some significance. So that's all I have.
And the beauty, not beauty, is totally subjective, I think.
Well, sure. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, who else had something they wanted to talk about? Betsy wanted to talk about parking at Hemlock 10-minute zones. Betsy.
Yes. Ooh, okay. So, let's see. I heard a rumor in town that there is talk about restricting parking on Hemlock. I don't know if that was just down in the Tolovana area where people are parking all over the place. Fresh Foods comes to mind. I think most of the people that work there park in what I like to think of as a pedestrian and bike lane. Some of them are off the road, some of them are not. Is the council discussing anything like that whatsoever? I'd like to put that rumor to rest or find out if that's something that's being talked about.
Not been brought up before council at this point, and I know that the traffic plan, is going to be on the agenda. Do you know which date that is?
No.
But it is on the agenda,
Yes.
correct? Because I remember when we talked about, I was concerned about the S curves, and the council said, no, put that off. We don't need to bring it up now. We need to put it off for when we have the big overall TSP discussion. So transportation plan discussion. So I guess it is on the agenda sometime this fall, is my understanding. And then that will probably be part of the discussion if anyone has brought that up. But I haven't heard anything about that, Betsy.
Yeah, well, that was the first I ever heard. I thought it was sort of weird, but the people that heard it were concerned because, like a lot of the presidential streets, they have a house on Hemlock that's old that has really restricted parking unless they're able to park on the street in front of their house, which
Right.
that's neither here nor there. We can talk about that later during the transportation study plan. And then what?
You want to talk about the 10-minute thing?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I just wonder if it really is for me about the post office and being able to get into the post office. And I don't know if the police consider enforcing those 10-minute rules when it's not business hours, because in the evening, sometimes I try to get in the post office and I don't think nobody's in the post office, nobody's in the store. I don't know if they're eating at the Driftwood or where. And I mean, it seems kind of weird. I don't know how to express this very well, but if there are other on-street parking available, do the police just feel like it's not worth giving somebody a warning or a ticket if they've been parked for a half an hour or more in a 10-minute zone? Because, oh, well, it's not a problem right now because there's other parking available, so who cares? Is it subjective like that, or is it just, I don't understand how those rules really work.
Parking enforcement people, as you know, are on during the day. So that's part of the issue. And Daniel isn't, he's not controlling for parking at night at all. And so I guess if there's one policeman on duty, that becomes their lowest priority, is most likely parking at night. But, I did talk to somebody who took matters into their own hands at the post office. And when there was several people parked, it was all filled up. and there was no one in the post office. So that person parked their car right behind the people who were parked there. And when they came out, there was someone standing by their car who was angry, said, well, how could you, are you blocking me in? And that person responded, well, you're parked illegally. So yes, I am blocking you. I'm not saying that that's a good way to do it, but I'm just saying that that was an effective way, because probably that person will park there again. It was, it was a tour, out of town tourist. But it is very frustrating to go into the, to try and find parking at the post office, and you know that the people in that little parking lot are not in there because it's empty. And you can't pick up your packages, and if you have to carry mail out, it's tough, so. I don't know, I mean, I know during business hours it can be addressed. I don't think at night it would be easy to address it. Just because I don't think there's staff or the personnel, but maybe I'm wrong. Bruce?
I think you're generally correct, it's not seems as big a deal as it is during the day. But I'll talk to Chief.
Okay, that would be good. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Bruce. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, is there anything else?
Not from me at the moment.
Okay. And I think we have Diana online now. I see a new face. I see, so let's see, Denny too. Denny or Diana, do you have anything you want to speak about or ask about, or?
Diana has her hand up.
Diana has her hand up. Okay, go ahead, Diana.
You're muted, Diana. You're still muted.
Yay. Hi,
There we go.
guys. First, I want to say I admire your guys' ability to sit through the discussion of the gym, and I appreciate how frustrating that is for all of you who worked so hard on the previous project. And I'm sending you strength to be able to begin again and help the community find a good way forward. It's really hard to sit and watch. I can't imagine being in your position. So I have two questions that I wanted to ask you today. The first one is on July 1st at your city council meeting, we discussed a moratorium on riprap. And at that time, there was unanimous support by the council to get guidance from your attorney to see about what the process would be to put a moratorium and riprap in place. We were told by staff that you guys would receive an update on that by July 15th. I have not heard anything since. You may be aware that the Seagulls have resubmitted their application for riprap. It was denied at the Planning Commission this month with a vote of 5-1 against. I imagine that anytime now you will be seeing an appeal. It will be coming in front of you. And as you guys all expressed the last time you saw this application in March, your code is not up to the task at hand to make good land use decisions and steward our shoreline, taking into account the science and best practices of land use that we know now. In the 20 plus years since the last time this part of the code was addressed. So I'm just wondering, what is the update? What did you learn from your attorney? Where are we on this process?
We didn't learn anything because we haven't had an update.
Well, we did get something from the attorney.
Well, we got a letter that was very generalized, but she didn't say whether or not we could put a hold on doing riprap or not.
No, it addressed the issue of moratoriums on code and the
Right.
length of time you could do that, and
That they're.
and I don't recall the specifics, but I do recall.
I'll send it out again.
Yeah.
I'll send it out.
Would you? Yeah, that was, when was that? Send out, because I mean, I remember reading a generalized thing, but not saying whether or not we could actually do that or here, applying it to us, to this situation. Can we put a moratorium on riprap or can we not in Cannon Beach? And that's what I'd like to see. I don't, a generalized thing about what a moratorium is and how difficult it is or how easy it is. And I remember this came up for the council a long time ago for some other issue, I don't remember if it was dune grading or what, there was was it a moratorium or was it just on, do you remember, Diana, if it was the moratorium on hold?
During the Ford management process, the revision process, Breakers Point put forward a number of grading requests, and there was a good faith ask of Breakers Point to not put in applications while the process was going forth. And they declined and they went ahead with their applications, and the city decided not to go through the moratorium process because they felt that they could get through the revision process more quickly. And then Lisa, I remember, I want to say this was back in the spring, Bill Kobiasman also did a general letter about how a moratorium could happen. He suggested that, go forward with education, and then you guys would be able to, quickly update the code, and that might be a more streamlined approach. I appreciate that opinion, and I wish I could agree, but the wetlands went through pretty streamlined, but it doesn't seem that anything else is happening very quickly. And I know that now there are some other considerations about how the process is handled and all of that. So, I, I, I think that a moratorium is a good way to address this until we can get a process that works for the community and is legal and that people feel is appropriate to address the larger issue of updating the code.
Yeah, because it never has been again on the agenda as far as we've never discussed a moratorium since the July 15th.
Recall what the attorney's letter said, but it's difficult to impose a moratorium unless you meet certain conditions, and I think that's what to hold on this.
That sounds familiar to me, but also, a limited time frame.
Yes.
Yeah, well, since we said we were going to discuss it again, the possibility of a moratorium, so maybe that's something that needs to be on the agenda. If we said we were going to do it, we haven't.
Yeah, we should have that, opinion, and, it's an attorney's opinion. Rarely does it say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. It's, more like, here are the concerns of doing it, and here are the limitations of doing it.
And they are difficult. They are a pain to do, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I mean, we got to find out exactly what it entails. I just think it would be so nice. And I agree with you, Diana, to try and get a new, the code revisions in place before there's another 50 riprap applications, it's gonna be pretty much impossible at this point. And the wetlands did not go through quickly. It was over a year, actually, of working on it. And then the city hired, a consultant to actually take it and do everything that needed to be done, like working with the state and everything else. So that was a long process in itself, and, I don't know, that's something else that should be discussed, is maybe we could ask to have, an official code rewrite of that. In other words, not just an advisory group coming and saying, this is what we like to do, how do we do it? Or just does this work, but rather having, somebody who's an expert writing code regarding the shoreline management.
Well, Lisa, just to let you know, so as part of the group, we had Meg Reed, who was from DCLD, and she was part of the education session. We had another woman from her department, Rhiannon Bezor, who is the coastal specialist. We had a Sea Grant fellow who's now moved on. And we had Robert and Jeff Adams were a part of it. Denise Lothman of Crest was a part of it. And the city approved the crest planner to go in and take our recommendations and make them into appropriate code. It's not totally finished because we were told, hold on, we're going to reorganize the code and then we'll bring you in. So, you know, we didn't have the crest planner continue working on it, not knowing if there were going to be other considerations that came out of your larger code reshuffling and that sort of thing. So I can't say I have something on my desktop to send to you today, but we're pretty close, you know, and we did have a professional planner write this plan and it has been reviewed at the state level. So as far as that goes, you know, we do have some things in our favor. There shouldn't be any big surprises. You know, how the community feels about it and the community process, which is, you know, equally or more important. You know, I can't say we gotta let that happen, but there has been solid work by experts done on this.
And where, has that been presented at any?
No, like I said, and I don't feel like it's even ready to be presented because you know, we're learning stuff every day, but I would love a timeline to know when you guys want to see this so that we can be working, you know, we can grab everyone's attention again and be working towards having something ready for you. And I also want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is appropriate and isn't going to cause, you know, concerns, which I know has, you know, recently come up. So I'm looking for engagement and direction from you guys on this.
If you could, I mean, if you could write a letter outlining what you just said, and it could be included in the packet so that the community could see it and the whole council could see it, and then we could try and get it on the agenda of how, you know, where we are in the process, what is a moratorium even necessary, if we can get this code rewrite that is very close, if we can get that through before a moratorium, which would come first, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think this whole thing has to be put on an agenda. It has to be, you know, and it should be public, so any letter you write to the council will go in the packet. Ask
Okay.
to have it put.
Okay.
And then I think that takes, you know, that then becomes an open discussion and we can, see where we move on from there.
Okay.
But I think it has to be put on the agenda, and I'm concerned about it happening, you know, sooner rather than later, that we discuss it, because there's gonna be more applications, as far as I can tell. And we need to be able to figure out how we're gonna address it.
Okay. So I know you guys are winding down. My second question was the seawall that has been built at 3216 Pacific Avenue. I know this, I looked through meeting notes last night and I saw that you had asked about it. Lisa, what can you share on that? I asked Robert St. Clair about it on the August 28th, and he said that he was talking to OPRD, but didn't have anything definitive to tell at that time. So now that we're over a month out, I'm just wondering what's the story on that?
Well, I wrote and asked about that seawall several times, to planning. And finally got an answer, and that answer was that ORPD was looking at it. And that was a couple of weeks ago. So I know nothing more than that ORPD is looking at it. I don't know when they're looking at it, if they've looked at it, nothing. Do you know?
I don't have any issue.
So was the seawall a part of their application through the city's permitting process?
I went and looked at the plans that were submitted. I did a public request for the, you know, plans. I went and looked at them. The seawall was on those plans. And it looked to me like it was over, it was beyond the shoreline cutoff on the plan.
Front setback?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That did not go to the PC. The planning commission did not approve a seawall. They approved vegetative riprap, not a seawall.
Yeah, so that's why I wrote, because I wanted to know, I wrote to the planning commission, not the planning commission, I'm sorry, the planning department, and asked them how this got approved, and all I was told was is that Parks is looking at it.
But
I
how
don't
did,
know how,
so what happens in Cannon Beach when things get approved that should not have been approved?
well, someone can come before council and bring it up and tell them that this has happened. They can write a complaint on the city form. They can, short of filing a lawsuit, I don't, I mean.
So the planning department, the city itself does not, I mean, I know that there have been times, I remember Jeff Adams having to tell, folks and the Nicholson that they couldn't have the garage that they wanted and different things like that. So what's the process within the planning department to say this should not have been approved and cannot stand? I mean, it can't just be, oh, you build whatever you want and then somebody might send a letter to the city council about it. There has to be some way for the planning department to address errors.
Yeah,
Karen has
and
her
that
hand
way
up.
is by someone files an appeal.
Karen has her
Uh,
hand, up. Maybe she has some answers.
Pardon?
Karen has her hand up. Maybe she has an answer.
Okay, Karen?
Or maybe
Yeah,
not.
mine was a different subject. I was hoping to bring this meeting up on a high note with a couple of good news stories before you guys wrap. So I wasn't going to comment on the land use. We do have a process internally with staff to address questions like that, by the way.
Thank you.
Well, I followed people have followed that process and nothing, we don't have an answer. So that's why, I think that's why they're concerned. You see the seawall, it's there, it was on the drawings, it was obviously approved by the city. How did a seawall get approved by the city planning department? And I can't answer it because I'm trying to find out that answer myself. So anyway,
I will get an answer, but I think that had something to do with jurisdiction.
you think that was the jurisdiction of
I
Parks?
thought that's what the explanation I got. I'll follow up, yeah.
Don't think that's true. I don't
I-
think it's just jurisdiction of Parks.
I couldn't hear what Bruce said. What did he say?
He said it was a jurisdictional issue, that it wasn't our jurisdiction, it was Parks' jurisdiction, is what he thought. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But isn't it the planning department's responsibility to notify OPRD if there is going to be construction? It first needs to be approved within the city and then it goes to Parks, right?
I don't want to comment, but what the specifics are of all of the.
Okay.
Procedures. I mean, I can't tell you if that's exactly how it happens or what order it happens.
Thank you.
I think what happens oftentimes is that people file appeals, just like the big tree up on Ash, that was a private citizen filing an appeal. And that's how it got in front of everybody and how a decision was made. That shouldn't be the case. That's not how you do good city governing, is to have people file an appeal when something is against vote, but so I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the jurisdictional answer, and I would like to know.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, Karen, you have your good news to give us?
I did. I wanted to let everybody know that phase 2 of our water resiliency project is completed. That was the pipe replacement from the springs down to the public works yard, and the ECFR is officially back open as of yesterday. And we just wanted to thank the locals who were patient with us while we were doing that project. It was super dangerous for people to be up there, and everybody was patient with us. I know you missed hiking the coveted area, so it's back open. Treat it with care. It looks great. And lastly, we have a new bus stop going in at the Ecola Park. So when you guys decide what you want to do with the old school site, people can actually catch the bus there. Lots of folks on the north end did not have a bus stop that our local transit actually stopped at, picked people up. So they had to walk quite a distance to get to a bus stop. So this is one that the north end folks will be able to use, have been asking for a long time. So you'll see that going up here. The foundation's been poured and they're going to start constructing it. It's going to look like all the other bus stops, of course, but that's some good news for us to bring the tail end of this meeting up on a positive note.
Well, thank you, Karen. It is
That's
nice
it.
to have some news. Yeah, because it seems like, yeah, there's more questions than ever after this meeting. More questions than we started with. So, instead of answering questions, we got more questions. So, thank you, everybody. Thanks for your participation.
And before we're done, just wanna urge people and remind people that October 28th, we do have a special meeting on the Necus site, so.
It is the 28th, not the 17th, like you said.
Right. And so we certainly wanna hear from people. It seems like everybody has a different idea, which is one of the reasons that we're kind of in the position that we are now, but I've got some things to present and Eric has been working on some things and then we'll want some community feedback, but hoping we can make something happen there. Since we've been in a public process for about 4 years now. And I don't think we want to necessarily start the public process over. Like to see something happen there, that, is meaningful for the community and the tribe.
And Bruce, it'd be great if you could come with some answers to the next meeting during, good of the order regarding how about that seawall. How it got approved, who has jurisdiction, and how, how someone goes about, objecting to something they see or perceive is against the code. Because, right now, it's very murky about the process.
Right.
Thanks, that's great, thank you. Okay. We'll see you in, first Wednesday, 10 o'clock. No coffee with councilors. Or bring